Hi, this is Arthur Carmazzi coming to you live from the studio here in Avalon, Bali, and welcome to the Experts MBA, the show specifically designed for trainers, coaches, consultants, and speakers to basically improve their business. So today we're going to be talking about how to get new clients, or at least one strategy on how to get new clients. And of course, if you like what you are hearing, make sure that you share this with all of your friends and get them to share it as well. All right, so what we're going to be talking about today is Google Trends. Google Trends is a free service by Google where you can put in a keyword and it's going to give you all kinds of information relating to that keyword. So let's see what happens when we put in the topic that is essentially our expertise. So one of our expertise specifically is leadership development. Now, you will notice that with leadership development that you get a list of all of the different countries who are interested basically in leadership development. Now, when we talk about interested, we're talking about that they are doing massive amounts of searches on this on a daily basis. So essentially, what's the trend? So maybe right now you might be in Malaysia, or maybe you are in Bahrain, and you think, well, gosh, there's not enough business here for what my expertise is all about. So you type that in to Google Trends and find out who else, where your expertise is really needed. So when we type in leadership development, we find out that the biggest consumers of information on leadership development at this time is Kenya and Nigeria. Who would think? But there it is. Google doesn't lie. So, if we target our specific expertise and we try to get people who are interested, HR managers, training managers, CEOs, vice presidents, who essentially are interested in leadership development, well, it makes sense that if there's a lot of people looking for specifically that in Kenya, that we should go to Kenya and try to get some business there. So, as we go a little bit further, we also want to match different words of the same kind of thing. So another thing that we do specifically is organizational culture change programs. Now, so we want to find out where are people looking for organizational culture. But we also know that not everybody calls it organizational culture. And whatever your expertise is, you might have some people that basically don't call it what you call it. So, for example, we have looked for organizational culture, we've looked for company culture, we have looked for culture change, and we've looked for corporate culture. Now, you'll notice that these are actually very similar in how they're used, with maybe organizational culture being a little bit more, but still. So, each different country has its own way of addressing what you do. So, for example, in Kenya, also highly interested in organizational culture, we find that they use the term organizational culture. But, say for example, in the United States, they're going to be using words like corporate culture. Okay? And so all of that basically means that you need to find out the specific keywords that people are using. And if you notice up here, we are also Google Trends also provides specific additional keywords that people are looking for. Why is that important? Because you need to use those words in getting the leads that you will later be able to follow up on. And when you do follow up, you want to also use the same words. So once we understand the different culture or the different terms that people are using for organizational culture, now we can go ahead and use other people's language so we can basically relate to them a little bit better, which also means we will be able to give them more of what they want using their words. Now, once we have all of this information, what we want to do is we want to drill down and we want to find out the different regions and cities of where this is actually happening. So for example, in this case, we've got India. Now, you could do all of India. You could advertise for all of India, but that would be expensive. And especially since most people are not searching, or many of the provinces are actually not really that interested. You'll find that there are some specific provinces that are far more interested in organizational culture or in leadership development than others. So that means, why would we want to waste advertising money where there is not an abundance of people who are interested in what we have to offer? So drill down to the city. So how do we do the advertising? Well, first of all, we're going to be using Facebook. And later on, we're going to show you how to get a minimum of $3 for every $1 you spend on Facebook advertising to basically build your business. And of course, this means you're going to be drilling down and using the Facebook audience tool, and we'll talk about that later, to identify which are the specific cities. So for example, in Kenya, we found that basically there's only one city through Google Trends that really has this search, and that was Nairobi. In India, you can see that there's a couple of cities there, so we're going to choose those cities inside of the audience tool in Facebook. Then, in the actual ads, we're going to be using specific keywords that people have been searching for. And essentially, like I said, in the next video, we're going to be talking about how to do that in more detail with specific strategies on how to use Facebook in order to get people to give you their name and email address so that you can contact them and follow up and basically get more business. This is Arthur Carmazzi wishing you great success.